Namaste, beautiful souls. Welcome and thank you for watching. I'm Gabrielle, retired medium in Germany, and I like to share some of my otherworldly experiences and insights. So this will be an experience I once had. Did I see an archon? But before I go into that, I would like to do a little summary of my last video with the thumbnail created by AI showing kind of the best case scenario if we utter sounds, words, or sing with joy and love and compassion, then of course we are kind of creating these wonderful light-filled and shining sacred geometry forms. And the worst case scenario is if we speak unaware and unfiltered right from our brain, and even with chaotic or confused emotions that charge these thoughts and words, so that the usually sacred geometry forms we create by intoning something become distorted and ugly and pointy. Just think of the water guy, this Japanese scientist, Emoto, who spoke badly to water, then froze it, and the forms the forms showing up in the frozen water, because water is conscious and reacts and responds to our emotions and what we send out as frequency and vibration. So these forms were ugly, distorted, and had no patterns at all, while the water that was spoken to with gratefulness and love and compassion and positive words, when that was frozen, oh, my throat today, sorry, that showed patterns, beautiful hexagonal snowflake forms. So remember, if we are built the same like the planet we live upon, Mother Earth, which also has 70% or even more of water, and we are built of water as well, more than 70%. And if water responds to emotions and thoughts, well, if you wear a t-shirt having on that written maybe death or heavy metal or whatever, and you speak unfiltered and negatively, you create an imprint on your inner water. So I try my best to filter my thoughts and watch my speech, but it's difficult sometimes, to only speak positive and not use no or not, because the universe does not know a no or a not. It only responds to yes. And if you think about your hurting knee and you think, oh, that damn knee, so you put a lot of focus, negatively charged, onto your knee, the universe only notices, oh, she's interested in that. There she's putting all her energy and her focus. So let's give her more of that. Then it will get worse. So it's really like that. What we intonate creates our reality. So that was the little summary, and now I'm going into my experience that I once had already years and years ago with someone I knew a little bit and liked, and she was looking like an angel. She had long blonde hair, wavy, and she was also very tall and a very beautiful woman. And she once called me up because she was in trouble, and I was just listening to what she was telling me, her story. Her father, who had a little company, just had transitioned, and as she loved her father and was sure that her father also loved her, but he was kind of the avoiding type. He never made his will clear and did not leave a last will like a testament. So there were open doors. And she was with a lot of sadness and grief about missing the father that had died. And then, exactly as if that wasn't enough, at that moment, her own brother started to fight with her over the heritage, because the father hadn't left a concise will. The brother started fighting with his own sister and wanted to, maybe out of greed, just get as much as possible from out of the father's heritage, and only to his advantage, and he was trying to cheat on his sister. So that was the second problem she had on her mind, and she was not only sad and mourning and grieving about the death of the father. At the same time, she was deeply disappointed from her brother with his sudden behavior and this fighting over the heritage. So she couldn't really mourn, and she couldn't really defend or get into that fight, and she was very desperate and, of course, in low vibration and sad and all the above that I already mentioned. And while I had her on the phone listening to her story, I suddenly perceived with my inner eye, or you can also call it the mind's eye, or third eye vision, however, these are all the labels we put upon something. I suddenly got an image, and I saw her kind of like a tiny humanoid figure in the auric field, which was a big egg-shaped form of energy around her. So I had the astral view because I could see her aura. And it was just full of dirty, muddy colors, nothing shiny or bright, no clear, pure colors. Everything had this kind of taint of gray or black upon it. And while I was still in awe, looking kind of inside of myself at this image, suddenly I saw something that was moving kind of on the surface of her aura. It had the form of like the paisley pattern, this drop shape form. And in the what I thought was the front, there was just a round big mouth full of barbels, like the whales have to filter out fish from the water they take in. And this mouth was opening and closing, and the whole thing was like a giant parasite crawling around her aura and kind of feeding off of her auric colors and energies. And I thought by myself, what is that? And then boom, I had the inside. As I was very interested in gnostic knowledge, I know a little bit about that, and it popped up in my head, that's an archon, one of the parasitic beings that kind of rule from behind the scenes, from the astral realm, our world, and they feed off of low vibration energies and feelings and sadness and despair and everything that's kind of dragging you down. They love that. And it got kind of pumped up and bigger the more it was crawling around in her aura and feeding off of her sadness and grief and despair and disappointment and all that was going on within her. So I know that the astral realm is also inhabited by a lot of negative creatures in the lower fourth dimension that feed off of negative emotions. And makes a lot of sense to me that the Archons, that also others described as parasites, and it looked like a giant amoeba or something like that, that this thing was crawling around in her auric field and feeding off of her low vibration. So that's a sad thing, and I didn't really know what to do. I tried to remind her of the light inside within her, and that the difficult emotions and situations in her life will not stay forever. Everything is meant to pass, like water and energy is flowing by. And only if we attach to it, then it sticks, and we might get the feeling of being stuck in something like low emotions and negativity. And the best help against that is always to raise your vibration, because then these lower astral beings cannot attach to you, because you have a higher vibration and they are in this range, so they can't even touch you. I know it's difficult if you feel the loss of a loved one and even have something going on like fighting over heritage and stuff like that, and being disappointed by your own brother doing that to you. You should do whatever makes you happy and lifts your vibration, to get rid of parasitic influence that feeds off of your energy. And you can even kind of transform pain into joy. There are ways to do that. In the worst case, when I'm really down, I look at videos of animals, puppies, kittens, or parrots, and they always cheer me up. So this is kind of my little trick tool that I use when I'm down. And also just remembering and thinking of happy moments, of wonderful situations in your life, that already lifts you up and lifts your vibration. It is all about vibration, which is sound, and words and speech are also sound, and thoughts are the first step to the uttered, intoned vocalization. So that's what I wanted to share with you today, and I leave you, as always, with blessings, liberation, and fortitude, and light up your auric field. Do something that makes you happy to raise your vibration. Bye.